Welcome to the Leveraged and Loving It podcast, business advice for coaches and thought leaders. And now your host, Renee Hasseldine.
Welcome back to another episode of Leveraged and Loving It. I'm Renee Hasseldine, and on today's episode, we are joined by the fabulous Angela Henderson from Finley and Me, who started the business in 2010, built it up to a seven-figure business, and now works with other women in business to help them build sustainable and profitable businesses. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Hello. Good to be here today.
Awesome. Now, before we hit record, we've been talking about a whole lot of stuff, sustainability actually, but to do with our parenting stuff and a whole lot of other things around, I think, there's this kind of passion in us both around, how we raise great children. But today our topic is going to be all about business. So we're going to go switch modes. But I think it's hard to kind of divorce, we are our businesses, right? It's not just the business. It's about, we're humans and we're parents and there's all this other stuff that goes on. So yeah. Do you think you can separate them?
Listen, I've tried hard over the years to be able to separate them. And, I do a lot of travel around the world every year to, I've just come back from the Maldives, the United States to keep up with my learnings. And, a lot of people give me a lot of, shit for that because they're like, oh, how could you leave your kids? But I guess I look at it from the other direction is, yes, I'm devastated. Like, I guess I'll start. I'm so sad to leave them. Yes, I don't minimize that. But when I'm in that Uber and I've said my goodbyes, my game hat is on to the business growth. And, when I do travel and I do these things, it's not about just up-leveling myself, but I'm also role modeling to my little girl, Chloe, who's 6, that it's okay that I'm not just a mom, that I'm also a businesswoman and that I can do both. And it's okay to my son to realize that as a male and seeing my husband is that you can step up and do the school lunches and the laundry and maintain the house. That it's not just that role of the wife. So for me, it's been really important to be able to still very distinctly understand where my boundaries start and finish. I guess around time. So when I'm working, the kids know that I'm in work mode. But when I'm in mom mode, I'm in full mom mode. So I've had to work really hard to maintain strict boundaries around those two roles in order to make sure that I can be the best me and be present. I don't believe in balance. I actually think work-life balance is a load of shit. And I think people are trying to obtain that status.
Amen, sister.
And it's not something that's actually achievable in the world that we live in, but I do believe that you can be present and that if I'm working, I'm present with my work. And if I'm with my kids, I'm present with my kids, or if I'm with my family, I'm present with them. So I work on more quality versus quantity, and I work on being present versus being on my phone. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love that you said that you don't believe in work-life balance too, because I've got a chapter in my first book that says, fuck work-life balance. So we are on the same page there.
Totally, 100%. I think, again, it all sounds great, but I think it's been so drilled into social media and other books and just advertising collectively that's this false dream that people are actually trying to achieve. And then we are left with guilt and burden and a variety of things. And I just don't think it's necessary. I think, again, if you can focus on being present, it will make you less guilty and feel a lot better about yourself and those that you're spending time with.
Totally. And then the whole concept of also having like a scale with work on one side and life on the other. You're saying life is on one side, and what's the opposite of life? You're saying that work is the equivalent of debt. Like, it's not part of life. It's something separate to your life. That's not, it's like, no, that's not, if we're as business owners, like, our work, our passion is part of who we are and part of our life. It's not a separate thing to our life. And that's, exactly. I think that's a dangerous thing to go,
Super dangerous. But I also think if you think about the infancy stages of business, I'm not about hustling or working harder, but you naturally are putting more time and energy to get the wheel spinning than you are if you've been in business for 5 or 6 years and have a team and have your systems in place and are established. So, what does that mean is maybe in that part of your life that you have to be more present with work, but it doesn't mean you're a bad person or a bad mom because you're not as balanced, as in it's a 50-50 split between the business and your family. It might be a 75 into the business and 25 over here, but you're still present in both of those areas when you're necessary and still creating those memories and those relationships. So whereas if you keep thinking balance, it's like, well, I think that's so confusing for owners and kids also, like, I'm like, whoa, that's just like, it confuses me. So yes, I'm not a really big person on the whole work-life balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love what you said about being a role model to Chloe and, and to Finley as well.
To Finley, yeah.
Yeah, just for both of them to see a woman who is a business owner and a parent, and it's totally fine. Like, and it kind of pisses, as a feminist, it pisses me off a little bit that, a man doesn't have to fucking prove that shit.
Yeah, totally, yes.
Like, no one questions a man who is a father and a business owner. Like, of course he can do both, like, not a thing, right? But as women, we have to prove that it's possible. Like,
yeah. And I know a lot of people be like, oh my goodness, Dale is so great that he does this for you. I'm like, last time I checked, he's the sperm donor. Do you know what I mean? Like, so how this is any different to me contributing my egg to the process, right? Like, and so I'm just like, well, he is, he's not babysitting his children. They're his freaking children. Do you know what I mean? So that's the least he can do to add to the partnership in the family unit, right? So when I hear those things, I know people mean well, but I'm just kind of like, really. But sometimes that's why I like to kind of challenge those conversations, because even though people mean well, the problem that we face is that then it becomes acceptable in the norm. And I'm just kind of like, well, no, again, so he is the sperm donor.
We've still got a lot of work to do in that space, because I found the same thing with doing national tour, that, I would get a lot of kind of, how is that possible? It's like, yeah, well, and actually, you're like a role model to me now, because we have 2 nannies for when I go away, so that someone else is making the lunches and doing all that shit. So my husband does. So I'm like, I'm making this way too easy.
But also think that, like, again, it depends on the family unit too, right? So if your husband has a particular type of job, and do you know what I mean, could be quite demanding, right? But that his work is a big part of the reason why your family is collective, right? I'm like, if a nanny works, then make it work. I don't think just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work with you, right?
Yeah.
Again, I would never want those listeners out there to go, oh, well, my husband should be doing this. I think it's important to keep into mind about how does your husband contribute, or how does your partner, could be a female also, contribute to the family unit. And if they're contributing through their primary job, there's still an element of contributing. And I'm a huge believer about freaking outsourcing. I outsourced my kids during school holidays for the last 2 weeks. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they were at vacation care. And I'm okay with that, right? Because the other days we were there and I was being present with them. So, again, it's always about giving yourself permission to know that there's no wrong or right way. And I guess as a business consultant working with women in businesses, so often I hear them, but such and such said I have to do it this way, and such said I have to do it this way. I look at each woman that I work with as an individual unit that's got different needs, wants, family, structure, business, etc. And it's important that we look at them through individual lenses versus making them fit, what is it? A fits all.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I see so much of that, and there are still, exactly, so many, so-called mentors or consultants out there who are saying, well, this is what I do and you must do the same as me. I'm like, nah.
And like I said, you might take elements of it.
Yeah.
But it's not meaning that this is exactly how it needs to be executed. You need to, there's so many things. Ideal client, are they online? Are they offline? Are they bricks and mortar? Are they not? Are they, who's the demographic? Like, you can't say that one shoe fits all. Definitely not.
Yeah. So this is a great segue into what are the 7 profit pillars for a sustainable business.
So I guess before I really hop into the 7 profit pillars in order to gain a sustainable and profitable business, I like to kind of talk a little bit about the 4 common mistakes that I see businesses struggling with, or the 4 real reasons small businesses struggle to survive. Because without kind of acknowledging what these struggles are, the pillars I don't think are going to mean much, because I think people have to start really reflecting on where they're at within business. So reason number 1 why I see small businesses currently struggling is they're lacking clarity on what actions to take. Yeah. Most business owners, and I know I did on both businesses, you jump in kind of feet first. There's a sheer recipe of overwhelm that comes in. You don't know what you don't need. And so I guess one of the main reasons why these profit pillars are so important is it helps you to gain the clarity you need, because one of the reasons that, again, people are struggling is they're lacking that clarity.
Yeah.
The second reason that I see businesses struggling to succeed is that they're kind of, that shiny object syndrome is all over the place. An analogy that I use is Subway Surf. It's an app that you can use on your iPhone or iPad, and it's a game, and they're on this like surfboard and they're going through the subway and they're trying to collect all these gold coins. And I relate that to entrepreneurs. Like, you're moving really, really fast, but you're getting nowhere. And you're going from that one shiny gold coin to the next shiny gold coin without really thinking about what is necessary. Or you're getting distracted by like the newest design or the newest gadget or the newest course or the newest app. But again, you're just really lacking, do you know what I mean? And you're burning your budget and your brain power because of this. And this is another big reason why businesses are struggling to succeed. Another big reason that I see businesses struggling to succeed is that they're treating social media like a safety net. They are so dependent on Facebook groups, so dependent on their Facebook page, so dependent on Instagram, that it's a dangerous game they're playing, because you're playing in the realm of someone else dictating what's going to happen to your business. So if they close you down, you're pretty much screwed. So that's another big thing that I see business owners struggling with, is that they don't have the strategy about how they can build their business away from those social media platforms. And I know the fourth main reason why I see businesses struggle to survive is that they're doing it alone. You know, going alone can only go so far, but again, they are isolated. You know, you're talking to your computer and the four walls that surround you. You're kind of Googling and you're YouTubing a million things, but you don't really have anyone to bounce that support off of it. And because of that, you're potentially making more mistakes because you're trying to get the next freebie and the next opt-in or the next YouTube clip. But people never really give you the big picture. And that's a dangerous game to play, not only because you're doing it alone, but how much harder are you having to work, when the reality of it is having a business shouldn't have to be about working hard all the time. Does that make sense, Renee?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it just really reflects as well what I see, you know, in my networks, and, you know, what I'm watching people do. You know, this is my 19th year in business, and I just kind of, I still see all of this stuff happening. And you do, there is this whole like stuck at my computer looking for the next free thing. And I'm going to spend the next 12 months getting all the free stuff. It's like, if you just paid someone to do this, this, and this, you would have already earned your first $100,000 in actually getting clients, but you were saving those, you know, a couple $100 for this and this. And it was just a false economy. You're driving me crazy.
And there was a really good article I read once. So this gentleman had quit his 9-to-5 job, and he wasn't a web developer or anything like that. And what he did was he then spent the next 80 hours trying to build his website. And what this article was literally go back and work at McDonald's. And what they were saying is that even if you worked 8 hours a week, because there's a sense that you must quit your 9-to-5 job, as if like you still can't work part-time, because God forbid you work part-time and try and grow your business, because there's like this, you know what I mean, stigma around that. And they're like, if you would have gone and still worked part-time, you could have outsourced that money that you brought in to the web developer, and your website would have been up so much quicker, making you more money than if you try to figure everything else on your own, right? And then not to mention the errors in the coding, etc. So I think it is super important. I know not everyone has a lot of money to begin with, but then I also say, well, how do you expect to make money? Like, you've got to be able to invest something into the business, whether or not that's time, etc. But it is important to really think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it really worth spending 80 or more hours learning how to build a website if you're going to do it once?
Exactly right. Like, I just think you've got to look at the overall priorities, and not just the short-term win, but the long-term win. And we're going to talk a little bit about my profit pillar 2 in a minute about a good website, because so many people are so quick to just have a website and they think everything ends there, but that's so far from it. It really, I'll talk more about that. But the other thing that I talk about in businesses is these profit pillars are like a house. And most businesses that come to me for help within their business have a business. It's kind of like the book, The Three Little Pigs, that majority of listeners have probably heard of at some stages. You've got a business made of hay or a business made of sticks. So they come to me, and yes, their business is physically standing, but it wouldn't take much for that to crumble, because they haven't built the foundational elements they need to grow a sustainable and profitable business. And that's why these 7 profit pillars that I talk about is more about then each pillar lays a solid brick, so that even if you have a bad month, or say a baseball goes through your window, the structure's still solid. It doesn't mean your business is going to collapse. It doesn't mean you can't make your bills. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to file bankruptcy. It just means you had a bad month, and that's okay, because the foundations are still going to support you throughout that. So that's why these profit pillars I've found over the years of not just 1 but 2 successful businesses are really important.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. All right, go. Give it
All
to
right,
us.
so profit pillar number 1 I talk about is your perfect profit profile. And what I really think within your perfect profit profile, when I dig deep, is not just about knowing your ideal client, which is part of it, but it's really also going back and understanding your why. And I know that kind of gets thrown around a lot and it drives me crazy, but if you don't know why you're starting a business, then I would question, why are you even in business? So you really have to go back to understanding that perfect profit profile, which includes yourself, which is, what is your why? What are your core values? How are those values going to, contribute to your overall business growth and your business model? And then really look at developing who is your ideal client, because if you don't know who your ideal client is, it's going to be very hard to do advertising. It's going to be very hard to do your content strategy. It's going to be very hard to validate any new products you come up with. So you really have to start figuring out what is you, part of your business, but what is your ideal client? What is your unique, solid point of difference?
Yeah.
And this is where that profit pillar 1, because if you don't understand that, then it's going to be really hard to build those next pillars and those next foundations, because you're always going to be chasing your tail. Yeah. So profit pillar number 1 is all about creating your perfect profit profile. Yeah. Now, profit pillar 2, and this is where I was going to, is about architecting your profit-ready website.
Yeah.
Your website, so many people, like I said, are struggling, are failing in business because they're so dependent on the algorithms. But the reality of it is you really need to own your own race course. And by owning your own race course is that you've got a profit ready website. And that is that your website is open 24 hours a day. If you've got your website set up correctly, and it's a conversional website, so when people land on your website, you only have 6 seconds to tell them from the time that they land what you do, how you're going to solve their problem, and if they're in the right spot. So if you don't have clear messaging above the fold, if you don't have a call to action, if you don't have an opt-in to be able to start, a sales process and email sequencing, if you don't have like a contact button, all of these things, testimonials, all of these things make up a converting website that is then able to work 24 hours a day for you, which includes having SEO. So what are your short tail and long tail keywords? So when people go to Google and they search for you, that your website is populating that search engine return so that they go to your website. So often I just say, people go, yep, I've got a website up. And then they start spending thousands of dollars in advertising in either Pinterest or YouTube or whatever, but driving traffic back to a website that is absolutely shit. And so it is so important that you've got your profit-ready website solid and converting from start to finish, so that as it's being open 24 hours a day, you can still sleep and either be making sales, or you can still sleep and people are still finding you useful because of the content that you're providing them.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it.
Now, profit pillar number 3 that I talk often about is called the Moneymaker Map. This is where businesses really need to start understanding what is their ecosystem that they are building in order to make sure that their money map is constantly flowing all the time. So this is where we really look at, what are your free options? What are your mid-range options that you're offering people? What are your high-end products that you're offering? How does this ecosystem all start to blend together? We also focus on what are their overall marketing energies to deliver like the best ROI for your business. So a lot of times people will do a lot of free content, but then they're not selling anything. So they're like, well, I'm not making any money because I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. So by really looking at the Moneymaker Map and looking at that ecosystem, we're start to establish what they can do for free, mid-range, and on the high-paying offers along the way, both in e-commerce and also in service-based businesses.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4.
And profit pillar number 4 is I don't care what anyone says in this day and age. It's the turbo-powered email list building. You still need to be able to, if your Facebook got shut down and your Instagram got shut down and you still had your website and an email list, you can still make money. You can. It's like inevitable. But yet so many people are focused on all that shiny object syndrome that they're not going back to those core basics. So profit pillar 4 is really about honing in on how are you building your email list? Are you building your email list through your Facebook group? Are you building your email list through your podcast? Are you building your email list through your blogs? Are you building your email list by having an opt-in on your homepage? Are you building your email list with content upgrades? What does that look like? Because you can be getting emails from a variety of places, which then again, if you do it correctly, every week, every fortnight, every month, you're having regular, ongoing human to connection with your audience, and you can continue to sell. So my profit pillar number 4 is all about the power email list building. You don't have an email list, you potentially, are going to compromise the growth of your business and the stability of your business.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. Profit pillar number 5 that we talk about, again, you've got this great juicy email list, and that so many women come to me when I start working with them as their coach. I'm like, you've got 5,000 people on your email list. This is phenomenal. And then I'll like, what did your sales funnel look like to go with that? And they go, well, what's a sales funnel? And I'm like, well, and then I start explaining, what is a sales funnel? What's the top of the funnel? What's the bottom of the funnel? So profit pillar number 5 is all about making sure that you've got simplified sales funnels in place for your business. They do not need to be complicated. I can't tell you how often I want to scream every single week when I see these Facebook ads and they were like drawings of like a million things that business owners needs to do. All you need for profit pillar number 5 is simplify sales funnels so that you can take those people who have signed up for something and then go through the funnel so that you can continue to grow that sustainable and profitable business by increasing your overall revenue and profit margins.
So can you give us an example of what that would look like? Like what would be?
Yep. So a sales funnel, for example, is when someone joins my Facebook community, the Australian Business Collaborative, I ask them 3 things. I ask them, 1, do they have a business? 2, what are they struggling with? Because by asking what they're struggling with, I'm able to then create content around that to solve a problem for them. And 3, I ask them for their email if they want to stay up to date with podcasts, etc. Once I get their email, I then put them into a 5-day email sequence. And that email sequence is really about just telling them a little bit about what I do, honing in on what some of their problems are that they currently have. And then at the last email, I invite them to my webinar. And my webinar then allows them to gain the really insights about, it's the ultimate 4-step framework for creating a sustainable and profitable business. I go through my framework, which is my Grow framework. And at the end of that particular on-demand video, I then offer them my group coaching program. So from the time that they've signed up for my Facebook community, as an example, then they're starting to get to know me in the group. They're starting to get my email sequences. I'm showing value to them. And then I'm offering them an offer at the end, which is all part of increasing my overall profitability.
Yep. Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Great.
Yeah.
Makes so much more sense when we've got a concrete example. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like e-commerce could be different. E-commerce, for example, could be that you've offered them a 10% off coupon code. So they've signed up for the coupon code, and that's a really simple one. They get the code, they then buy from you. Like it's a really quick, it's like literally 1 step. You sign up here for the 10%, you send them the email, they then buy from you, and then you can put them into another email sequence after that purchase, potentially. Yep. So yeah, so there's different, you can apply it to both e-commerce or service-based businesses.
Gorgeous.
Awesome. And then profit pillar number 6, there's going to come a time, there's only one of you. And there's only so many hours in the day. And if you've got children and a partner and everything else, you're the chef, the cook, the cleaner, etc. We're still trying to grow this really juicy, profitable business. So there's going to come a time, which is profit pillar 6, which is all about building your dream team. And that's really about understanding how you're going to go from a solopreneur into that, next kind of scale. Because if not, you're going to really struggle to have that overall sustainability. And so profit pillar 6 is all about building your dream team. Now, some people get really confused and think they must have thousands of dollars to be able to outsource. And that is so far from the truth. And I want to just kind of break down that myth, is that I hire based on job description and what I need for my business. So that could mean that I hire here in Australia, but that equally means I hire some people overseas. And when you're first starting in business, when you might be bootstrapping your business and money is quite tight, you can pay for people in other countries $5, $6, $7 an hour. Now listen, some people will freak out about this and go, but I'm taking jobs away from the Australian market. The women that I have employed through my business via Fiverr or Upwork at $8 an hour US, which works out to about $11 to $11.50 Australian, they make more money than their husbands. I'm empowering them to grow as a woman. They get to stay home with their children. So even though I'm paying them less, but I have to take into consideration the economy that they live in and the country that they live in. And again, I go through this really, thorough interview process with the ladies so that I understand what their needs are, what their wants are, what time off they need. So you can still hire people that don't have to be within the country that you live in and still grow your business. All I say is just respect those women just like you would someone if you were hiring someone in Australia. They are people too. You treat them just like you would anyone else. So yes, so Don't be afraid to hit into Profit Pillar 6 and start building your dream team if you think you've got to hire local, because that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And same. So I've got onshore and offshore people on my team as well. So yeah, I use different skill sets for me, you know, whether I want them locally or offshore as well. Like Stevie, my general manager, is based in Australia because we get together and we spend a day a month together doing strategy. Like that's, you know, that's something I want locally because, you know, there's more around that. But yeah, for offshore, for example, like Sol, who does all the admin stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff, all the following of the processes and things that need to be done every day that I'd rather scratch my eyeballs out than do. That's, we pay Sol, who's in the Philippines, to do that stuff. So yeah,
and
absolutely.
they're super collectively, like I can't speak for you, but every lady from the Philippines that I've worked with has been so kind and so loyal and so respectful. And so often I hear people say, oh, well, they didn't work out and this didn't happen. The majority, if people are genuinely honest, the reasons why their dream team doesn't work out is because of you as the business owner,
Absolutely.
not because of them. And so if you don't have your processes in place, you don't have your procedures in place, you don't have your systems in place, and you think hiring someone is going to just all of a sudden make you $1 million, you are so far from the truth. It's not even funny. You must be able to hand over to them. You must be able to spend time training them and then have weekly meetings with them and touch base with them. So I think it's super important that people take ownership and responsibility.
Yes.
The majority of people in VA positions they're not failing because they don't have the skill set. It's because we don't give them the training and nurture that at the beginning for them to be able to grow and move forward. So I think
so true. Oh my goodness. I've heard so many people complain about, you know, VAs and people haven't worked out. And it's like, you may need to look in the mirror. Like I know myself, I've had to completely step up as a leader and really work on my own skill set to be a better leader and manage a team. Like it's a whole different thing to actually just looking after my clients.
And like that's the whole thing there with Profit Pillar 6. It is about the dream team. So you've gone from solopreneur to dream team, right? So the hat that you wear now is you're no longer the employee of your business, you're the CEO of the business. And with that becoming that CEO of your business, you really have to start taking ownership and leading those members that are part of your team. Because without that leadership, you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
And then profit pillar number 7 is really about being able to assess productivity and profitability. And what I mean by that is so often people have no quarterly plan, no monthly plan, no weekly plan, no strategy collectively. They're not looking at their revenue goals. They're not looking at their monthly data. So like say Google Analytics to see how many people hit their website, how long were they on there for, or looking at say, how many discovery call bookings did you have? How many sales did you have? How many abandoned carts did you have? So in order for your business to really be profitable and sustainable, you also have to be able to look at the productivity and profitability of your business and stay on top of that. And through that, it's all really about your numbers and how you, again, stop from working in your business to working on your business and being more of that CEO versus the employee. So that's around profit pillar number 7 is really productivity and profitability.
Nice. Love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing them. Now, question, can these pillars be applied to anyone?
Yes, 100%. And I know that because Finley and Me was an e-commerce platform where we had 1,400 different products at one stage.
1,400.
One stage I was one of Australia's leading parenting bloggers working with Netflix, etc. It's these foundational elements that are necessary. So you still must have core messaging. You still must know your ideal client. You still must have a conversional website. You still must be able to look at your profit and your numbers. You still must have an email system. You still must have sales funnels. All of these basic fundamentals are still required for each of these businesses when you're starting out. And even later on, so for example, I work with a plastic surgeon who absolutely kills it via word of mouth. But all of his foundations, right? He's been so dependent on so many other things throughout the years that he's not being found by Google. He's not being found. So if all of his referrals which I don't think would ever happen because he's like one of the top in here in Australia, but if they did stop, he would then have no clients. So we've gone back and we've built these pillars for him, and he's absolutely now doubled his intake of people because people are now finding him in search engines. We now have his lead magnet. He went from I think it was 52 people on his email list. And within the first 5 weeks, we had his email list to 1,182, I think, because like everything started to come together. He had a conversional website. They then found his opt-in. They then went to the email sequence. So this can be applied both to e-commerce and to service-based businesses. The things that is when you start to change the two is how you would scale. So when we get to ads, for example, your Facebook ads would be different for an e-commerce platform versus a service-based. But if you're running ads and either of those, you're driving traffic back to your website and your website sucks and isn't conversional, and you're wasting money, do you know what I mean? An enormous amount of money. So so they're applied to both.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Angela. If people want to find out more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Yeah, they can head just to my website, which is angelahenderson.com.au. They can head to angelahenderson.com.au, and from there, they can then choose what and how they want to connect. So that could be my Facebook group, that could be my podcast, it could be my master classes. So I'll let people choose once they get there what will work best for them. So angelahenderson.com.au.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great to chat with you.
All right, no worries. Well, thank you so much. Have a fab day, my friend.
Thank you. I'm Renee Hasseltine. You're listening to Leveraged and Loving It. Talk to you next week.
For all the downloads and links mentioned in this episode, head to shareyourpassion.com.au.